Welcome to the Industry Angel Podcast. We hear from the best business minds across the globe. Entrepreneurs, social influencers, marketing mavens, and sales rock stars. We've got them all. Here comes your weekly dose of inspiration with your host, Ian Farah.
Welcome to episode 122 of the Industry Angel. It's really starting to feel like spring here in the UK. Sun's been shining, lawns are being cut, jackets aren't required, as Phil Collins would say. And it gives me such a lift when the sun's out. I love having meetings outside in cafes and sitting with sunglasses on. Awesome, isn't it? And thanks so much for your feedback. You're tagging me in some fantastic projects on like LinkedIn and Twitter. I love seeing what you're up to, so keep doing that. In terms of what I'm up to, we've got a few live events coming up across April and May. If you'd like to attend, be sure to add yourself to the mailing list on industryangel.com just to keep up to date with the newsletter. And you could request to join the LinkedIn group as well. We put stuff on there. Okay then, let's hear from today's guest. Today we have a chap who has worked in the third sector as a fundraiser for over 14 years now, working for both national and large regional charities. Welcome to the Industry Angel, Danny Mitchell.
Hiya, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Good man, good man. Well, thanks for joining us, Danny. So, interesting background. I've read your bio, and it looks like you began your third sector journey with NSPCC. So that's the National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children. Am I right?
That's correct, yeah.
Yep. And then you moved across to the Stroke Association, following your grandmother dying. She had a stroke as well, yeah?
That's right, yes.
Yeah, and then went over to the Percy Headley Foundation. So a lot of background there, Danny. So I'm really excited to understand how the third sector works, to be honest, because we have a lot of private sector stuff on this show, a lot of stuff about kind of raising funds and angel investing and that sort of stuff, but not really much about the third sector. So I'm glad to have you with us.
Fabulous stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting sector to work in, you know. It's one of these that I kind of fell into by accident years ago, because I used to have a direct debit set up to NSPCC from being 16, because my mum and dad used to foster newborn babies. So I just kind of done that naturally. And then as it happened over a period of years, I started to do workplace fundraising. And then I used to take the money into the fundraiser at NSPCC, and she said, "I'm leaving. Why don't you apply for my job?" Without going into too much detail, 3 months later, the job was still advertised on the website. I applied for it, and that kind of sort of changed my life and my career direction for forever, really. But yeah, NSPCC, you know, big national charity. And it was interesting because I think people who don't work for charity always think, "Oh, it must be amazing working in a charity sector." You know, people just coming through money at you and all this sort of stuff. And it was kind of a harsh learning curve, especially for working for such a big national charity at the start. You know, it does an amazing job on a ground level with like what they're doing, what they're trying to do. You know, but ultimately it's a big corporate machine. You know, with everybody having targets and the strategies and all that sort of stuff. So it was quite high pressure at the time. You know, I started as a community manager looking after volunteer committees and all sorts of things like that, and helping with them organise black tie balls and things and golf days. And then I got promoted to corporate manager, and I got promoted to corporate manager the day that Adam Applegarth stood out on the steps of Northern Rock and announced a recession. So that was an interesting challenge to be then trying to work with businesses to get funds and fundraising, you know. So it was kind of from that point for me that I started to work a little bit differently and started to do more research into the businesses, and realized that historically businesses used to just like donate funds, whereas at that point it was more of a, right, well, how can we work together? How can I help you to achieve your KPIs? How can I help you to have a happier workforce? How can I help you to reduce sickness time? And, you know, so actually making an enjoyable partnership rather than just a business supporting a charity.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say there about the big corporate machine really stood out to me, because I mean, these are multi-million pound charities, aren't there? Some of these bigger ones, you know, like 100 million turnover
Yeah, I think when I left NSPCC, I think it was about 147 million.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, if these were in the private sector, these would be some of the biggest companies in the UK, really.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So thinking about that third sector, then Dan, you kind of alluded there to the sort of credit crunch we had and some of the challenges that it was facing. What other challenges do charitable organisations face then?
I think it keeps on giving itself a bad reputation with regard to like chuggers, people trying to collect in the street, and then the biggest one throughout my career has been when people outsource the appeals to a telesales company to phone people
Okay.
for their direct debits to raise it. I
Yeah.
mean, I've experienced it myself. So and I've always disagreed with it because first of all, the person on the end of the phone making the call isn't attached to the cause they're getting paid. This is just my opinion in like sort of on targets, and I've had one of those people phone me up before and very much going through a script and things like this. So I've ended up cancelling my direct debit. And my whole thought process around that was, instead of phoning people asking them to kind of double their direct debit or whatever, why not spend that day or that week phoning all these people, having their information in front of you and saying, for example, oh, Ian, you've supported NSPCC for the last 5 years. You've donated £5,000. The difference that's made is, I just wanted to wish you a very good day, thanks for making a difference. And just saying, enjoy, thank you, and hanging up. And, what difference I think that would make a massive difference to people. I think that would engage supporters a lot more. And I think it would actually have a better return on investment, rather than, as people say, pressure sales. So the industry doesn't help itself, with things like that, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that would be a great way to do it, and I suppose being ethical, I guess that's a real challenge for them now. So because if there are certain organisations that are doing that, then possibly we all get tarred with the same brush, maybe. So I guess you're kind of under more scrutiny than you've ever been in the third sector now because of this.
Yeah, but again, it's a part of it for me from the very start was I'll never change the way that I work. I always like to try and treat people the way that I would like to be treated. I've always had the kind
Yeah.
of, I've treated it as my own business as well, but also like I would only ever work for a charity that I absolutely believe in, and who I believe in what they do. So like, I look at the charities and go, okay, my contract may well say 9 to 5, but flexible hours, and you need to work weekends. But I look at the people who I'm supporting. So Percy Headley was young children, young people, and adults with cerebral palsy and other disabilities, and they can't clock in and out 9 to 5 or bank holidays off. So very much, I would be doing. My phone is always on. Obviously, if I'm on holiday with the kids, I have to like just leave messages and things like this. But I do it. It isn't a 9 to 5 job, and I think there's probably a lot of people in it who kind of switch off at 5 o'clock, but there's a lot of amazing people in it as well who don't. But I think to be successful in this, and to go against where you're getting a bit of a bad rep in the sector is just to change that and change people's opinions and actually just be true to yourself and just continue working the way that you would like people to treat you.
Yeah, there's something I picked out there, which I think you talked about a few people or people in these organisations who are doing some good, and there's some absolutely fantastic people
Yeah,
who just are there because of the charity. And
yeah,
I've met them myself. So you might know I sit on the board of a charity. I'm a trustee, and our fundraising manager just lives and breathes this stuff. It's
yeah,
absolutely consumes the whole cause and everything.
yeah.
It's just
That would be Joanne, is it?
yeah, of
Yeah, no,
course it is. Yeah.
I know Joanne. She's lovely, like, and absolutely 110%. It's just like I met her for the first time. I mean, I've been chatting to her for the last year about the firewalk and various things, and I met her for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and just absolutely, like, you can see the passion coming over with making a difference, and it's just lovely to see.
It is, and for a small organisation like the Charlie and Carter Foundation that I sit on, it's a worry because you start a charity like this because of a cause, and it becomes everything to you. How can a charity still keep that front and center and not become a business oriented entity that kind of loses its values and loses its identity of why it first started out? Is that a challenge, do you see?
I think so. I mean, I think you look, there's new charities starting up every week. And I think there's lots of people who get personally affected by things, and that they set up charities off the back of like sort of really bad things happening to their family and things like this, and you get that kind of initial oomph that goes where the community pulls together because of the person you know them and all this, and it's this wanting to make a difference. And I think the challenge for everybody is just trying to keep it on a level of, first of all, if it's a brand new charity, even if it's in its 2-3 years, it's still new, it's still learning, and just actually just trying to keep your head above water and trying to get the right people involved, but trying to remember why you founded it or why you started it in the first place, and just keep going back to that point. Just not to allow it to become just one of the other thousands of charities where you lose touch with your supporters, or you lose touch with the things that you're trying to do. And there are, people can make the mistake of just getting a bit swept away with it, and then all of a sudden somebody who is unfortunately lost somebody sets up a charity or a foundation, and all of a sudden the chief exec of their own foundation or charity without any real experience to get to that point. It's kind of a daunting place, and I think what hits people quite hard is like in year 2 and year 3, when the support kind of dies down, because like the whole onus was on their plight at the time when they were going through the tough time, and you need to have a strategy in place. There's ways and means to compete with the big boys and girls of the sector, and just allow them to spend the millions on PR and promotion and all that, and kind of jump on the sort of on the back with it.
No, it's interesting because I agree. I think some of the bigger boys who do have these kind of millions to spend, I think, I don't know, this might be just me, but I think there's a bit of a trend now for people getting behind some of the smaller charities where you can actually see where your money goes and just see firsthand some of the the differences that they make. Where, I don't know, some of the larger charities, maybe you might do the direct debit thing, but then it's kind of, you just don't know where it's going to. I'd rather really just sort of see it firsthand. Does that make sense?
No, definitely. I mean, one of the one of the biggest things that the charity sector doesn't like anybody doing is earmarking their money. So especially national charities, because obviously, so NSPCC had areas so where our money would come in, and it would go directly into the bank account in London, and then they would feed us whatever was needed for services. But you know, we would struggle, because we would want to improve services, but then it was down to a national strategy. Whereas if a supporter does say their own ball at their own event and they raise £5,000-10,000 and they sent that check in with a letter to say, I would like, I'm donating my £10,000, but I would like it to be spent on blah. It legally has to be spent on that. Now that may sound like the answer to it, but also that can create its own problems, in so much as if the charity has already got money allocated to that service and it's up to the level that it needs to be, and then that comes in on top, it can create a bit of a problem. But my whole argument along the way was we should allow our supporters the choice to donate or fund whatever they want, and just be open and honest about everything. I think there's too much in, even in the large regional charities, it can easily get lost in a pot, and get spent elsewhere, rather than it going directly to one of the more needy parts of a service, and I think it's about the sector as a whole, maybe just being a little bit more, bit more open, because I think, you can say, oh, well, for every pound that you donate, 95 pence goes directly to blah, 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 blah. But there's ways and means to kind of spin that, and like, I just think, for me personally, if I was, when I'm donating to charities now, or I'm donating like my services or whatever, I make sure that I know what I'm actually helping, rather than it just being generic. But that's just me.
No, that's a really good point. I didn't even think about being able to sort of stipulate where you wanted the money going to. It's interesting, that that recent boxing fight we did. That we raised about 7,000 for the foundation, and when our founders kind of got up in the ring and sort of did a little talk to everybody, they sort of said that £7,000, that's 2 families that you'll be helping. And what was really lovely was the whole transparency piece, the whole I don't know, just seeing where your money's gone, we actually named the 2 families that people would be helping.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was lovely to kind of link that back. And I'm sitting here now with a check on my desk here for £100 from a friend of mine, Paul from Boomerang Consultancy, who sponsored me, and that's going to go and help somebody's transport costs.
Yeah.
And I love that way you can just see where the money's actually going. And I think that's where I was alluding to earlier on when I mentioned about some of the smaller ones. You just can see it's so transparent where your money's going to.
Definitely, yeah, and I mean that's the key, and it's about, it's looking and actually recognizing every pound, every £10 is just, and you can see it. This is one of the things that every charity really needs to have from the start, is kind of their shopping list. And I don't think there's many charities have got it right yet because of other priorities. But if you can turn around and say, like, okay, £1 would fund this, or £3 and £100, and you've got a shopping list right up to the biggest amount you can think of, running costs for a year, and you can break it down and say it could fund this. So when I was at NSPCC in Childline, was saying, £3 could fund a call to Childline, and that's a great thing to say. That's just like the very generic cost. So you could potentially save a child's life by donating £3, and we've done various appeals. But I think it's something that is overlooked by certain charities, and I think when people start up, it's probably worthwhile just looking and saying, okay, what are our costs for the year? What are we trying to do? What are our aspirational goals? How much is that going to cost? How can we break that down? And how can we sort of, create a more sort of engaging appeal with the public, and just and sort of like where you're saying they stood in the ring and that money's going to fund this. That's just, that cannot fail but to engage people.
Yeah, definitely. I think it did really engage in, and this country. If you think about this country, it's ran. If if the voluntary sector wasn't there, if people weren't volunteering for these charities and helping out, man, it would just fold. And
Absolutely.
I guess over your time, then you must have met some absolute rock stars, just amazing people who are giving so much of their time and lives to some amazing causes.
Yeah, a lot of them are friends now, so I've got people who back in my NSPCC days are friends now, and they still support, and they support whichever causes I'm sort of helping with, and like, it's just, and it's lovely, you kind of go to meet somebody for the first time and you don't know what they're going to do, and sometimes you just off that first meeting you go, I've got something special here. There was an example I can give. When I was at Stroke Association, there was a lady, she was 39, and one of our friends, this gentleman, had a stroke, and he was only young as well. And she said, right, for my 40th year, I'm going to do 40 challenges. So I went to meet her, and she was like, oh, I want to set my target at, let's say, £2,012, because that was the year 2012. And I went, what are you doing? She says, well, one challenge is going to be to read 40 books. I'm like, okay, one challenge is going to learn to play 40 songs on the piano, 40 laps of a athletics track, but on roller skates, like bouncy thing and all that. And it was quirky, 40 celebrity retweets. And it was unbelievable. I was with her for the journey throughout the whole year. And she not only like smashed all of our challenges, she got so much awareness and PR off the back of it for the Stroke Association, and raising awareness of what a stroke actually is. And she raised, I think it was about 14,000 instead of our 12. And I mean, quite rightly at the end of it, she was one of the first people from the kind of the north of England to win a national award for the Stroke Association as the fundraiser of the year. And it was just phenomenal, And there's a lady who just like started off with an original concept off the back of one of our friends having a stroke, and just changed the shape of it really, and just absolutely smashed it. And I'm still friends with her to this day. She lives in Halifax. I know her family now and all that sort of stuff. And it's just, yeah, it's, you meet some really special people, and especially when you meet the service users as well, the people who the funds go to. I've got some really good friends from that as well.
Yeah, it's fantastic, really, when you think about some of the stuff that social media has gave us now. Sometimes it can get a bad rap, but that lady there in Halifax, no doubt you keep in touch through something like possibly Facebook or something
Yeah,
like that, and
exactly.
you kind
Yeah.
of, you watch each other's journeys and things like that. So, thinking about social media, then, has that give you or the sector a good platform to go forward with?
Absolutely. I mean, I think again, you look, it's sort of the top 10 charities in the UK. They were probably social media savvy 10 years before anybody else. There was a whole team of people at NSPCC when I was there in the London head office, and they were on it. Stroke Association a little bit later to the game, but I was one of the ones who had a Facebook page, but it was national. And I was one of the ones that set up the first sort of Stroke Association Northeast Facebook pages. And I kind of asked but didn't ask. I set it up and got my wrist slapped a bit, but it's still there to this day. And my point, and my point was, people give to people locally, and if we can get a local angle on it, we'll have many more supporters. So my journey at Stroke Association was, I was there for about 3.5 years, and I think we trebled income and reduced expenditure. And one of the income streams is called reactive fundraising, and that's where people just come to you to say, "Oh, I would like to fundraise for you because of, or I'm doing the run, so this." So we literally, I think we probably went from about 56,000 reactive income when I started to maybe about 170 when I left, and that was purely off raising awareness of who we were and what we're doing, and recognizing people via social media, So it's a massively useful tool, and it's, for me personally, I guess over the years, a lot of people in the sector kind of know who I am now, and it's nice to recognize people throughout Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, things like that, and just get messages out there. It's a great tool, absolutely amazing.
That's a nice little link, actually, Danny, into something you're doing now. Then, so you say that people kind of know you, they see you around. What's your calling now, Danny? What you up to?
Well, I now run Change Fundraising Limited, so as an advisor to charities. So basically, rather than working full time for one cause, I now offer sort of my 14 years experience to any charities that would like a little bit of help, and that can be anything from the free cup of coffee to pop in and have a chat with somebody to see what they're doing or where they're trying to go, looking at what they've done, and maybe just giving a few hints and tips for free and going, okay, do this, do that. There's a lot of fundraisers out there who are new to the game or junior, and they've got targets. So one of the things I do as well is offer a bit of a mentoring service. So I'm working with a couple of fundraisers at the moment where they'll phone me up and go, "Oh, I've got this to do, how would you do this?" And I'll meet them for a cuppa and chat to them, and I'll introduce them to people to go, "Can you help them with this?" It's a bit like people deal with people, and a lot of the charities are trying to get into venues or places, or could be Metro Centre, Eldon Square, Central Station, and and they can try and try. Well, everybody's asking every day, and my little black book of my contacts now, because of my reputation, is really good. So it's like anything, if I can open the door for them and facilitate that introduction, that's part of it, But it can be anything to help them to write a strategy, help them to create quirky events, products, help them to raise their awareness on social media, and just looking at what they're doing, I've probably made loads of mistakes over the years and learned from them to avoid them making those mistakes, but also to help them grow. Nobody will ever donate anything to any if they don't know about it, and it's a very, very competitive marketplace, and it's just about trying to stay ahead of the game, So, and I'm lucky that to date I haven't actually had to go and sort of hunt for any clients. They've all been kind of come and asked or been referred, So it's good.
I'm smiling away here because I can hear your passion there. You are starting to get really passionate about it.
No, I am. I find it hard to control it sometimes.
No, that's great, man. Honestly, that's great. And what I was wondering straight away, what my mind went to was, sometimes you can be a little bit kind of selfless with this stuff, and sometimes you've got to put bread on your table and put a roof over your head, and I imagine it's a struggle from wanting to help everybody to actually having to pay a wage for yourself.
It's, do you know what? It's a nightmare. And so much as I give too much stuff away. I won't go into detail because I'll probably have requests off the back of it for, can we have some more stuff and all that sort of stuff. But even down to the firewalk, there's been causes and all this where I went, oh look, I'll give you a couple of places or whatever, and and it's just like it's more about me living with my conscience about making a difference. It sounds cheesy, and everybody I've met, I've said, I have to make a difference. I do have bills to pay. I want to live, but that's why I try not to call myself a consultant as well, because I've been in the national charities where I've sat for a week where consultants have come in and we've covered the walls in post-it notes. We've ended up with like a 400-page Bible, and they went away with 10 or 15 grand, and we've never been any further forward. And my whole thing was, well, no, I'm not going to be that person. I want to look at what people need, and I want to look at how it can help. And at the end of the term of my sort of contract with them, it will have helped, and it absolutely will have helped, or I'll give them their money back. It's kind of just like, I couldn't sit there and just take money off people, but also, I give far too much stuff away. I met a young couple last week, and I was sat there, Cafe Nero, chatting to them, and they've been referred to me as a potential client. And I was like, oh, look, I'll help you for free. I was just like, look, it's not going to be like as it would be for a full-time client, but like, you've just pulled my heart out, and I choose to help you and just advise and all this sort of stuff. And because like, we can all do something. Everybody can do something. It's even like, if it's a case of retweeting something or sharing something, it's not always about money. In fact, it's very rarely about money, because the money will come. If everybody who was connected to a charity, all sort of, when a charity put a message out, all shared it and tagged in so many of their friends, the awareness of that cause would go through the roof. But we all kind of like sit and watch Comic Relief Day or things like that and go, oh yeah, I'll donate me tenner, that's it, done. As a society, well, I try not to do that, and obviously you don't as well, but it's so easy to think somebody else is doing it, or we get caught up in our busy lives. But the impact that we could actually have if we stood and like went, right, I'm going to tag in 10 of my friends, and we're going to ask them to tag in 10 of their friends. It's a bit like how the Ice Bucket Challenge started. It didn't start by accident. It was all planned, and it's just this whole snowball of things of how things work. But yeah, I'll shut up now.
No, that's awesome. I love that, because that's got me on to your next question. Because what I'm really passionate about, and you might know, is about trying to encourage other people to get on board and do more and volunteer and give their time.
Yeah.
So that's a great little tip you've give there, and about just sharing stuff and getting awareness out there. I'm putting you on the spot here, but is there anything else that people can do that are listening now that they might be able to put their time or effort into helping?
Well, a lot of the charities, so you see, it's not so if you look at how much they have to raise every year, and I remember when I went to Percy Headley Foundation, like, it was a ridiculous amount of money. And then I said, well, what about if I save your costs? And they're like, well, what do you mean? I went, well, we've got all these contacts and like in my network. So how much do we pay for photocopying? How much do we pay for utilities? How much do we pay for our public liability? How all that sort of stuff. So if I can save us money, that frees up money, surely. So I get a lot of what's called gift in kind support, So for example, I've known a printer now, Keith Wisson from Sharemore Press. There's me plug for him. He's just a lovely fella. And like, for the last 13, 14 years, he's kind of supported me with the charities I've worked with regard to supplying print, like donating it, and it's a ridiculous amount of money that he's saved over the years, and that's actually cost him, but that's his way of giving. And before everybody jumps on his back, he now does it all through me, so I kind of look after his like corporate responsibility bit, but it's like, you look at charities when they're trying to design a poster, if somebody's a graphic designer, donate your time, donate a few hours, go and volunteer. I mean, in my early days, I've probably done loads of bag packs, so I'm allergic to bag packs now in supermarkets, because they're just too difficult to do, but they do raise a lot. But kind of with my stuff, it's kind of like you go, I get volunteers along to all my events, and what I try to do is I try to make every single volunteer that comes along feel so special, and that they're actually a guest at the event as well as volunteering, So it's kind of, I've got people who still volunteer for us now, or they'll go, oh, what you got coming up? And that I had 13 years ago, because they're doing a great job, So if it's like on a registration desk where it's going to be busy for a zip slide or a firewalk or a run, it's kind of like making sure that you look after them, and making sure that you thank them, and and not just calling them up the next time you want to volunteer. There's loads of things, but what I would say is, like, I've spoken to people in the past when I go in and speaking to companies. I go, what do you want to do? What is it that you want to do that you have never tried or anything, and how can I help you to make that happen? Obviously, safely and within the law. It's kind of like, because there's too much stuff that's just churned out as kind of generic. You can go online and click the A to Z of fundraising, and people print it off and give it to people, and it's just like, it bugs me to death, because I'm like, oh yeah, man, be creative, people. It's like, just chat to people. if somebody listens to this and talks about and mentions my name once, that's making a difference, or talks about one of the things I do, that's making a difference, and it's the levels of making a difference. I do not believe that there's a person on the planet that cannot make a difference today, tomorrow, the next day, by a spare in 1 second or a minute of their life,
Well, there you go. There you go. There you go, listeners. Take it on board. So, what's happening then, Danny? What have you got coming up? And
It's quite a boring month. I've just got the World Record Firewalk on the 30th of April. So yeah, I'm one of these silly people that goes like, right, I've hosted 9 firewalks in the past with UK Firewalk, had on average between sort of 60 to 120 people on, and I thought I fancy holding another one. But I wanted to hold another one that was big, and I wanted to hold another one where, again, the whole ethos of my company is to help the smaller charities compete against the big boys and girls. So I thought, right, well, it's like North Run where that's out there, but it's still hard for the small charities to get places, and it costs a fortune. So I thought, right, I'll create this event, and charities can come. So the world record's currently 1,356 people taking part. So we're aiming for 1,357 or more. And it was like, £25 a place. A charity can buy one place, or they can buy 10 places, or a whole lane of firewalking's 150 places. Nobody can buy the event out. And I did get approached of a couple of national charities who heard about it, going, "Oh, can we have the whole event?" And in a business point of view, that would have made absolute sense. But for what my company's trying to do, I said no. So there's probably about 50 or 60 charities involved directly now who, without this event, would never have done a firewalk because of the risk assessment, and they're just a bit nervous. Joanne's one of them. She was talking about it and saying, "Oh, it's been so helpful to have it on board," and I'm sure I should say that here herself. And it's kind of, I'm doing all the risk assessment. I've got the venue. I've got UK Firewalk. We've got everything sorted. We've got the first aiders. We've got the infrastructure there. All I'm saying to you is, there you go. Here's an event. Use it. Jump on it. Get your supporters to come along and do this firewalk and just raise vital funds, because it's not like a run where you've got to train for it. You're going to get training on the night. It's 3 meters walking over, burning hot coals absolutely safely. But what you find is, yeah, exactly. It's absolutely safely bit that I've got to put in there at the end. It's because it is absolutely safe. I've hosted 9 of them now. Scott from UK Firewalk, who's a world record holder for the longest one, he's probably hosted thousands over the years, and probably the biggest injury he's ever had is maybe somebody getting a blister where they've got a bit of hot coal stuck between their toes.
Right.
But yeah, it's a surreal event, and people, in the ones that I've hosted before for charities, I've went, just raise whatever you can. Again, I think a big bugbear in the charity sector is where people go, you need to raise a minimum of blah, because it puts pressure on people.
Yeah.
So I've always tried to do on things like that, go raise whatever you can. But if you could raise, do this. That's what difference it will make. If you could raise, that's what difference it will make. And for the firewalk, people go, "You're doing what?" And they'll get sponsored ridiculous amounts because they go, "No, seriously, you're doing what?" You go, "I'm walking over burning hot coals safely." It's like that whole thing. It's not your run of the mill event, which this isn't going to be. It's gained a lot of traction on social media. There's people still coming forward to buy places now. There's still the opportunity. The last 3 weeks, people are like, "Oh, it's not worth getting any places now." From a charity point of view, it absolutely is, because there's lots of people floating about in hyperspace wanting to do it who haven't signed up yet, who haven't picked a charity. There's lots of opportunity to utilize it, to even just have a conversation with me about it, to go, how would you recommend? What would you do? Because it's there. It's gaining momentum. It's getting publicity. It's going to get press releases. It's going to probably get TV coverage. And yeah, if it doesn't break the world record, I'll probably be the only one that's gutted about it. But it's already the largest in the UK ever. Charity firewalk. If everybody turned up and everybody raised on average what they should, it could be a £250,000 fundraising event in one night. It's just a bit surreal.
Right, Howie, right, let's get this sorted then. So when is it?
It's on the 30th of April at Newcastle Falcons.
Right, come on. I'm writing this down. 30th at Newcastle Falcons. How many people you got registered?
I think we've got just over 1,000 at the moment.
Right, and we need another 400 then. Or 350. Who's got a record?
Oh, I don't know. It was just I think it was over in India last year. Some big company kind of hosted this firewalk,
Uh-huh.
and broke the record, which had been stood for about 10 years. So, normally like world records stand for years and years and years. So it'd be great to just like trump them within a year.
Yeah.
But
So 30th of April, Newcastle Falcons. What date is that? Is that Tuesday, Wednesday, or something?
it's a Tuesday night from 6:45. But people can't just turn up on the night.
Right.
They would need to register via their website, which is www.newcastlefirewalk.co.uk,
Newcastle
or they can just
Firewalk.
all one word .co.uk, or they can
Newcastlefirewalk.co.uk. Or like, what are you going to say? They can book it with a charity.
they can book it with one of the charities. Basically, there's a Facebook event page where lots of the charities have commented, or they can just give me a call on 07817412524, and I could advise them of which charities are involved, or they just sign up. It's not compulsory for people to take part and raise funds for charity as well, because there could be somebody who's went, oh, I'm raising funds for the marathon, I'm raising funds for this, but I'd love to do this. Just come along, do it, be part of it. You could simply just tweet about it. We've got awesome medals created for it. It's just some bespoke medals.
So that person who wasn't going to do it for a charity and just fancies doing a firewalk, they could go onto the website and register themselves at
Yeah,
25 quid. Yeah.
Register direct. Yeah,
Awesome
there's no
stuff.
pressure. I tried to make it as easy as possible for everybody. I looked and thought, what would I have wanted 5 or 6 years ago when I was a fundraiser, and what would I have wanted if I was just general punter wanting to do it, and I've tried to incorporate all those things in this, so yeah.
So you said no pressure, but no, I'm lumping the pressure on. It is easy to do it, but I want me to take part in this. I want me to listeners now to get on board of this and make it happen, get this record sorted. So
it would be awesome if we could get the record.
I'm going to put all this, all that stuff in the show notes. Anyone listening can grab them in the show notes. I'll put links onto the website, and there's also the Facebook bit as well. So what would you search on Facebook then? Newcastle Firewalk?
Newcastle World Record Firewalk.
Right, brilliant stuff. That's awesome. Right, loving it. Anything else you need to leave us with, Danny?
Yeah, if anybody fancies coming to see the only man on the planet that scored a hat-trick in a World Cup final, I'm hosting an evening with Sir Geoff Hurst on the 19th of July at Crown Plaza. It'll be my 10th time working with Sir Geoff, and it's his last time in the Northeast, and obviously following the recent passing of Gordon Banks, bless him, we're going to do a tribute to Gordon Banks as well, the World Cup winning goalkeeper, but that'll be quite a good event as well, so if anybody's interested in being part of that at all and getting one of the last few remaining tables, just give us a shout, My email is danny@changefr.co.uk.
Awesome stuff. What's Geoff Hurst like?
Oh, he's amazing. Honestly, he's the best person I've worked with, like with regard to guest speakers. His comparison with like modern day football compared to theirs is just ridiculous considering they won the World Cup. But his stories and his passion about it, and he's just so good with people. He's got time for everybody. And I'm so looking forward to picking him up either from the airport or from the station again, because he's an absolute gentleman, best person I've ever worked with.
Yeah.
And a true legend, considering what he's done. He's just surreal, and his stories are amazing.
I bet. Oh, that sounds like a great night, and that's at the Crown Plaza in Newcastle, yeah?
Yeah, on Friday the 19th of July.
Good stuff. Well, Danny, thanks so much. We've done over half an hour there, and we've covered off quite a lot. Really interested about some of the challenges that third sector face, and obviously, someone like yourself with your skill set and 14 years under your belt, it's you must be a great asset to them. So, Danny, thanks so much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Ian. It's been great.
That was our Danny Mitchell there. Really interesting to hear about the smaller and larger organisations and the differences between their funding, wasn't it? Around 40% of charities here in the UK earn less than £10,000 per annum, and they really rely on us to help, to volunteer, to support and fundraise. And that formal volunteer in the UK is worth around £23 billion. So globally, I urge you all to do what you can. Together we can make a huge difference. I'm sure all of you listening have been affected by tragedy, illness, loss. And the impact we all make really is tangible, for like charities fund almost half of medical research here in the UK. So homework for today, my friends, if you're in the UK, I'd love to see you sign up for the Firewalk and help Danny and the team smash that world record. I'll be there. If you're out further afield, here are a few options. Why not try and reach out and contact a charity, see if you can help them. Search on Facebook for some events near you. Go and give some blood, maybe. Let's make a difference together. Message me and tell me what you did, and I'll share the impact. So until next time, I'm Ian Farrer. This is the Industry Angel, and thanks for listening.